and welcome to Health Talk. I'm your host, Jill Fraley-Dotson for Pikeville Medical Center. During our programs, we discuss various topics with health concerns. We feature physicians, nurses, PMC staff, and today we have a very special treat for you. We have a lot of doctors that we have on the show, but today we're going to visit with some patients who have taken the services of weight loss surgery at Pikeville Medical Center within their own lives, and we're going to talk about their successes and their story. We have three guests with us today. Let me introduce to you Mashana and Joe Jacobs and Corey Harris. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Health Talk. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today, because all three of you have amazing stories, and I can't wait for our audience to hear exactly what your journeys have been like. Mashana, we're going to start with you. You're in the middle, so we're going to start there. Ladies first, right? Mashana, obviously you look amazing.
Well, thank you.
I mean, really amazing. I'm so excited to hear about your story. We have a before and after picture of you. That's how we're going to start. We're going to go back 2 years. And the picture that we're going to see is 2 years ago. And then we can obviously see you sitting here today. You are not the same person.
No.
No, you're absolutely not. How much weight have you lost?
I have lost about 115 pounds.
115 pounds. Over how long? What is the time span?
Well, my surgery was 2 years ago, but the majority of it was lost within the first year.
Within the first,
yeah,
with the first
the
year
first
there.
Probably 8 months is when I lost the majority of it.
You're in the beginning of your journey, you didn't start seeking out a weight loss program.
No.
So what happened?
I had severe acid reflux.
Okay.
So much so that it was eroding my esophagus. And one of the last EGDs before I did surgery, the gastroenterologist I was going to at the time actually told me when I went for my post-op, he said, I thought that the biopsies would come back cancerous because it was eroding so bad. So I actually came to Pikeville, was getting a second opinion from another gastroenterologist up here, and he sent me to Dr. Johnson as a referral for a different surgery, and it was to help with acid reflux. Because of my short stature, I was not a candidate for it, and she actually asked the question, would I ever consider gastric bypass? I kind of looked at her.
What did you think when she looked at you and said that? Because that's probably something you really hadn't even thought about.
No, that is really something that I had never thought of. I thought, I was like, no. I honestly thought that, no, I had to be much bigger than what I was to have surgery. That was only for really, really heavy people. But I'm only 4'10.5", and
that's what I was going to ask. How tall are you?
My body mass index was 44. So, yeah.
Yeah. So through the course of just, I guess, counseling, when talking with Dr. Johnson, you decided this was the best option for you.
When I started out the journey, I had it in my mind that I could always back out at the end of the 6 months because I had a 6-month process. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't get up to the date and say, oh, I wish I'd done it.
Right.
But, with doing all the research, the program that they do up here prepares you for so much. And so the research and everything that I did, it was
kind of like a given that you were going to do it and not back out.
Yeah.
Ups and downs. I know there's been a few things, ups and downs, but would you do it again?
I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
What I think one of the downsides is you don't realize how much society revolves around food.
Yeah.
Until you're giving it up. Mm-hmm. This was even beforehand because, we prepared for, smaller portions and things like that. And it absolutely amazed me because I can remember getting angry at one time thinking, is that all we all do is eat?
Right.
Because, planning parties, everything. Everything revolves around food.
Lunch dates, anything like that. It really does. Our society does all revolve around food, and such a big change in your life that you had to go through, learning to do your portions differently and what you could and couldn't eat. I know there are some regulations and things that you can and cannot have. So it's a massive lifestyle change.
It is. And it's a mindset. People think that when you have the surgery that it's a quick fix, and it's not. It's a mindset. You use it as a tool. We were told to use it as a tool. It's a tool for weight loss, and you've got to, I mean, you have to stick with it.
So in the beginning, I'm sure that everyone who has this procedure, be it gastric bypass or the sleeve, and we'll talk about that too, sets goals. So I'm sure you had like an aha moment that you knew that you were going to meet your goal. Talk a little bit about that time when you knew you were almost there.
I was shopping with my daughters, and there was a pair of jeans. I hadn't purchased any jeans or anything like that, and so there was a pair of jeans that I put on, and I went and got a size, and Joe and my daughter looked at me and said, "No, you need to go smaller." And I actually ended up going down 5 sizes while we were in the store, because I started out with what I would typically go with. Because to me, even though I'd lost a lot of weight at that time, it's still...
Your brain still told you
my
something
brain
different.
still, yes. So I wanted to get the bigger. And I mean, literally, I cried in the middle of the store when I put the jeans on, and I knew then, wow.
I could almost cry just sitting here listening to you talk about it, because I can imagine at that time when you keep going down in size and you're built, your brain is built to think a certain way, and you've been that way for so long, how emotional you could have gotten, or probably did get at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, my daughters were like, "Mom, quit," because we were teenage daughters.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was wow.
Amazing.
That was one of those moments.
Amazing. You lost how much? Over 100 pounds. 100 and
About 115.
115 pounds. But you lost a lot else during that too. I imagine you lost some medications.
Yes, I was blood pressure medicine. I was on a CPAP. Slept every night with a CPAP. I had sleep apnea. That was gone. I was pre-diabetic, so I was taking medication for it. I mean, I think that the one thing was the CPAP. That thing was, it was awful, but it was so great to get. It was so great to get rid of it.
finally not have to use that large device in your home that you had almost been a slave to for so long, because you had to have it to breathe. You talked about your daughters. Your husband's sitting right next to you, Joe. And Joe also had bypass surgery. Joe, talk a little bit about your journey. When did you start? Was it after Mashana decided she was going to have the surgery and start her time, or was it before then?
I had always kind of thought that surgery would be an option for me somewhere down the road, but it was one of those things that I just kept putting off and thinking that eventually I may be able to do that. And her going through the process really spurred me on to start looking into it in a more serious way. And so while she was doing her preparation, I started doing the research and thinking about that as a possibility for myself. And then we staggered our surgeries about 6 months, so we were at different points in the process. But that really watching her go through it is what gave me the impetus really to pursue it.
Yeah. Now we have a before and after picture of you too. We're going to show you that on your screen. That is absolutely amazing. You're not even the same person sitting in front of me at all. All three of you are not the same people, but did you, like Mashana talked about the mindset that you have from a certain weight to where you are now. Did it take you a while to get comfortable with different sizes? Maybe the way people looked at you differently?
I'm still not comfortable. I've been heavy for most of my life. I started gaining weight in about the 2nd grade. So I have never been this size as an adult, and it's so different. Things that you take for granted about the way your body works, about the way the world works, have really shifted significantly, and sometimes it's still hard to adjust.
I imagine so. Like you said, it is a total mindset, and I keep going back to that. But as I sit here and look at you, all three of you, and I've heard a little bit about your stories before we began today, it still kind of blows my mind in a way to know where you were and where you are now, and how differently you must feel as people in so many different ways. Joe, your total weight loss, where did you start?
I started, when I first started going to Dr. Johnson, I weighed 215.
Okay.
Sorry, 315. See, it's even difficult to
It's
think
hard to
of those
say
numbers.
that number. Yeah, 315 pounds.
315 pounds.
And like you said, you've been heavy most of your life, starting early childhood, gaining
Yes.
weight and being a bigger individual. So where are we now? How much weight have we lost to date?
I have lost 167 pounds.
Wow. 167 pounds. And over the course of how long? I know Miss Shauna's is about 2 years.
Mine was about 2 years because since we staggered our weight loss journeys, I started the diet and exercise and preparation period before surgery. So before surgery, I lost about 65 pounds to get ready.
Okay. But I imagine that the two of you doing it together was a big benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you kind of kept each other in line, I would say, too, because
Yeah.
as a married couple, I know, you know, husbands and wives, they always kind of go back and forth and make sure everybody's on the same page. But
Yeah.
it's such a good thing to have a support system.
Yeah.
So what else did you lose, Joe? Because I asked Miss Shauna what she lost. What other kinds of things did you lose?
I had severe sleep apnea, so I lost my CPAP.
You both were on CPAP. Okay.
And I also had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I was seeing a cardiologist. I was taking probably a total of an average of 6 to 8 pills a day, and I lost all of that medication. I take nothing now except for vitamins and normal supplements.
So children, you have how many children?
We have 3.
You have 3 children. What was it like for them watching this process? Because you mentioned you have teenage daughters.
We have 3 girls. For them, the process, I think it was very interesting because they were able to see, you know, us go from not being able to do much because of weight to now we were able to be more active with them and things. One of our daughters in particular, and I'm not going to mention which one, had a really hard time when I started getting smaller than she is. And it's just because she's taller than I am. I mean, I'm short. And so for her, it was a
big
now
adjustment.
she's learned the benefits of it because she gets to wear mom's clothes too.
Right,
So
well, you can all share.
yeah, that's exactly
that's a
right.
great thing.
So, but it was different for them. I mean, it was all 3 of them adjust. It was like they all 3 went through different journeys as well.
You both had gastric bypass, and would do it again
Absolutely.
without question. Because there, like we've talked about, there are a lot of adjustments that you do have to make, and there are things that in your life that you didn't think would happen that have happened. So I want to ask, the last question right now I want to ask the both of you, how has your activity levels changed with the things that you do now in your life as opposed to where you were 2 years ago?
Oh wow! I mean,
It's
It's
daylight
completely
and dark.
different.
There are so many more things that we do now that, you know, we took for granted that we were sedentary before.
Right.
And now we are more active, and we don't even really have to think about it. We're just naturally more active. We have the energy, we want to be out doing things, and we go do them.
You don't want to sit.
No.
Right.
And it's not an excuse anymore.
Yeah, and it's
Amazing.
It's totally different. You know, even before, you know, I always liked to hike, and I did a lot of it even when I was heavy. And now I do probably about as much hiking as I did before, but it's completely different because, you know, you used to look at those steep trails and it would take a long time to get up to the top of them, and now it's like I'm flying to the top of that
Can't
mountain.
wait.
Yeah.
See how
it's-
long it takes you.
Absolutely,
The
because
grimace
now,
isn't there at the beginning, but it's like, how
Right.
long is it going to take me to get there?
yeah, it's more, I can sprint up a hill now, and it's just a completely different feeling, and it totally changes the amount of things that you can do and the quality of the things that you're doing.
Amazing. Like I mentioned, you both had gastric bypass. Now, our other guest, Corey, hey Corey.
Hello.
Corey Harris chose a different procedure. You chose the sleeve procedure.
Yes.
Why not the gastric bypass? Why did you choose the other option?
Originally, that was the option, but as I spoke to Dr. Johnson, she said, I think you'd be a good candidate for the sleeve.
Okay.
So she kind of talked me into having the sleeve, and that's the main reason I went with that. It was kind of her.
Her recommendation
Yes,
for
yes.
you. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. You are a really really big loser. And I say that, listen, I say that with all of the respect I can muster, because when you tell somebody that they're a big loser, this is the epitome of what that is. How much weight, Corey, have you lost to date from your sleeve procedure, where you were until today?
Right around 250, just under 250 pounds.
I really don't even know what to say, because I look at you and I think, you're a pretty tall guy.
Yes.
How tall are you?
6'5".
You're 6'5", and at your heaviest you weighed?
Just under 500 pounds.
Just under 500 pounds at 6'5". Yeah. I can't even begin to imagine how differently you feel. Joe and Mashana, we talked about how they felt differently, but at 500 pounds, and a young guy too, you're just in your 20s, how has your life changed?
It's changed pretty drastically.
I imagine there's a huge long list of differences.
Kind of like they said, my energy level and activity levels. I don't want to have to sit in the house anymore, that kind of thing. I was talking to Carol on the way over.
Right.
We walked over from downtown, and I said, a year ago I probably would have been like, I'm not walking over there, I'll drive over there. So.
Well, and that was going to be, because, we talked before, and you told me your journey just started a little over a year ago.
Yeah, I'm just under 15 months.
Just under 15 months, and you've lost over 250 pounds. And I keep just stopping and looking at you thinking, I can't imagine you at 500 pounds. Not a bit. Talk a little bit about how your eating habits may have changed, because gastric bypass is much different than the sleeve. It's not as complicated, I guess, is what the word would be. So what have you changed?
Portion size obviously is one thing that they stress in the beginning, but that was kind of the mental thing going into this. I was like, I won't be able to change my eating habits up that much. But then after I'd been through it and began eating again, once they start introducing stuff back in your diet, it's more of a mental thing.
Right.
Before.
It keeps going back to that.
We've stop eating, that's just a mental thing. Once you kind of, purge the system of that thought process, it was a lot easier to control what I eat, how much I eat. That stuff now is kind of second nature.
Take me back to your childhood. Were you a heavy child?
I wouldn't say I was a heavy child. I was really active all throughout school. I played sports, played college sports here in Pikeville. And I played a year of football here at UPike. And after a knee injury, I stopped playing football, and that's really when I put most of my weight on. I was in the lower 300s, around 300 pounds in my senior year and my freshman year of college, but it was, I guess, I was more athletic then. It wasn't all, heavy weight, that kind of thing, fat, I guess you'd say. But after that, I came home from that year of football, and that's when I really put everything on. I stopped being as active as I'd been, and that's when I really started gaining weight.
At what point did you decide that maybe you need to seek some help with your weight issue? Actually,
a few years ago, I had thought about this before, and I was going to go with a lap band. I'd already started the process of the 6-month process, like she hit on earlier there, and somewhere in there I was like, I can do this myself, I think. And so I didn't follow through with it, and then just gained more weight. And so I actually went to the doctor for another reason, and got on the scales that day at the doctor's office and was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so
a different kind of aha moment.
Yeah. And when I spoke to the doctor that day, he was like, what are you here for? And I was like, forget that. We need to talk about this weight problem I've got. This issue. And so he referred me to Dr. Johnson, and that's kind of where I started.
And then she was able to determine what was the best procedure for you to have. Corey, how old are you?
29.
You're 29 years old. So so you're 7 maybe when this started, 28?
28, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You talk about, being a very active child and then going to the point where you're in college and being active, and then one day you just can't anymore. That's a big adjustment to make. And then when you start to see the weight come on, I imagine that you could almost get into, I don't know if I want to call it a depressed state, but a state where you just don't think that you really want to do anything, where you're just sedentary, like Joe said, and you probably had never been that way.
No, but it's true. It does. You get to a point where you're like I said earlier, I don't want to walk over there. I'm not going to walk over there. And all my friends were doing stuff like hiking and all this other stuff, and I was like, I don't know about that, or
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So.
So now we haven't seen your picture yet. So we're going to see your before and after picture, or before when you were at your heaviest, nearly 500 pounds. Wow, that it's just still, it's tough to look at because you can't imagine. I still look at the three of you sitting here and the people that we've seen now, the before pictures, almost unrecognizable completely. Unless you just look into somebody's eyes, it's hard to see after they've lost that much weight that soul and that person is still there. Although this part has changed, it's still, like Mashana, you said, it's a mental thing that you have to learn to adjust with. And I think that's something that all of you and many other weight loss surgery patients have gone through, because you have been a certain way for so long, and now you're adjusting into a new way of reclaimed life. I mean, you literally have your lives back, and undoubtedly many, many more years of life than you would have had you not seen Dr. Johnson and had these procedures in their own respect, and changed your lives literally. Corey, I know that you probably get all the time, like, who's that guy? You know, the oohs and ahs, all of you probably do. I mean, it's just, how do you respond to people when they just look at you kind of like I have, like, really? You've lost that much weight?
Honestly, it shocks me sometimes too
Yeah.
to see older photos. I mean, a year ago, not even older photos. I saw some photos just last week from vacation last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, goodness. And I just didn't even realize that I was that heavy. You
Yeah.
just kind of get used to it, I guess. But
It becomes the norm.
yeah, and other people say, I didn't realize you're that heavy either,
Yeah.
being around you.
Because they see you every day and they
Right.
just don't realize. And then I think about the three of you sitting here not looking like you've ever in your lives had any kind of weight problem. You know, and for the two of you, you're 2 years out, you 15 months. I mean, I still can't get my mind around that. Amazing. A few questions that I have for each of you, and you can just chime in as you wish, that I'm very curious. Either one of you, any regrets?
None.
Not one.
The only regret is not doing it sooner.
Not doing that
Absolutely.
sooner.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Okay, yeah, I do have a regret.
That's the only regret, is not doing it sooner.
Yeah. And I imagine that you want to tell everybody about your success, because you may have loved ones or very close friends in your life that always wanted to ask those questions but never got to that point. And I imagine you just want to share your story so much. What about people that may be with us today in our audience that are really considering seeking advice from Dr. Johnson or have questions for you? What is the biggest concern before the surgery, your pre-op concerns?
I guess leading up to the surgery was the lifestyle changes I was going to have to make, the eating changes and things like that. I was still in the mindset pre-surgery of, I'm not going to be able to do this kind of stuff. I don't know if I'll be able to, like, the portion control and all that kind of stuff. But after surgery and after basically teaching yourself to eat right and to control your portions, and it's second nature now. It's not a concern.
It's
Once I
become
got
your
through it, it was
lifestyle.
a mental thing.
Right.
Yeah, it has.
We talk, all three of you have talked about the challenging parts of your surgery, whether it be mental, whether it be your family, accepting the change that was coming, especially your children. And I imagine, Mashana and Joe, the changes in each other, that was probably a lot to take in too, because you've been a certain way for so long.
I've never seen him this small. When he and I got together, I was tiny. And it's like, if we're in the mall, I lose him. If we're in the grocery store, I lose him. I mean, and that's it. It's just, it's like, wow.
It's a huge adjustment
Yeah.
It is. It's
to
very
have to do that. Weight loss surgery obviously has changed each of you for the better, and I applaud your efforts in making sure that you stuck to the plan, that you listened to Dr. Johnson, because it's not an easy way out, is it?
No,
Not at all.
And I bet you hear that all the time, don't you?
all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, you still have to eat right. You still have to exercise.
Yeah.
It's just,
I tell people that a lot. You know, they
we
say
use it
that-
as a tool. That's what we were
Yeah.
told. It's a tool, and it is a tool. And if you don't use the tool, then it's,
That it's going to go away.
Yep.
You've got to make sure that you take the advice. And that first day that you get on the scale, I want to ask each of you that. The first day that you get on the scale and you've seen a significant weight loss, because I imagine it would be hard not to get on the scale every single day, because you want the immediacy of, I've had the surgery, I've had the procedure, and now it starts. But it certainly is a journey. Talk a little bit about that first time that you got on there and you saw that weight loss, the first, 25 pounds?
It really drives you to, like we said, it's a tool, but it makes you want to get out there and do everything. I'm losing this weight, I'm going to lose some more, so you want to get out there and do stuff.
Motivate you to get to the walking track.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I imagine too, because if you're a walker and Joe, you love to hike, but the breathing, you can breathe better. Taking a lap around a track used to have been a really tough task for each of you.
I told somebody last week, if you'd have told me a year ago I could run 3 miles and not stop 20 times, I would have told you you're crazy. And now I'm running 3 miles, not stopping at all, stuff like that.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Really? 15 months out?
Yep.
Amazing. Dr. Johnson talks a lot about working out and making sure you eat right. She's with us now and I've sat here and watched her get very excited hearing your stories again. From the first time that you saw these 3 individuals to where we are today, you have to be so proud of their accomplishments.
I am. I'm always amazed when I see pre-op photos. I mean, we all get into this, it's sort of like our eyes change a little bit, and you guys have this experience all the time, but when you're around obesity all the time, it becomes the norm. Mm-hmm. When suddenly you lose a bunch of weight, it's a shocking reality. When you look back at your photos, every one of my patients will say, I can't believe I was that big. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that I weighed that much. I can't believe I looked like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's a fascinating mind game. It definitely is a challenge to get over those issues when they hit you, like how did this happen? But it's extremely pleasurable to hear how successful people are and how much their lives have changed and
how you're helping to change their
well,
lives. And it's true.
Yes.
They come to you seeking advice and seeking the right thing to do. We've talked with each of them. Joe and Mashana have had the gastric bypass, and Corey had the sleeve. Talk a little bit about the differences in those procedures, if you would.
Sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass are 2 of the 4 operations that we offer. But in general, and I need to extremely generalize, sleeve gastrectomy is a great operation for all guys. Okay. It is a restrictive operation whereby most of the stomach is removed, and we see success in men anywhere from 18 to 65, 70. We have had marked success with this operation in men. Women, it's a little different. Women tend to do better with bypass as they approach 40 and perimenopausal time periods. That's sort of weight loss stuff. Bypass is an operation that involves making a small, teeny tiny new stomach and attaching a piece of small bowel that gives a patient restriction of the amount of food they can take in and malabsorption of some of that food. So some of that food, some of the calories don't absorb, and also some of the nutrients don't absorb. The procedures carry with them the same risk perioperatively, but long-term they carry different risks. And I think with the increased effectiveness of bypass with middle-aged and older people and people with diabetes, you do take on a little bit more risk, whereas with sleeve patients who possibly don't have diabetes and are lower age group, they have less risk late. Diabetes runs rampant in our population, particularly in Pike County. It's a horrible scourge on the community, and gastric bypass truly is the treatment option for patients who have uncontrolled diabetes and even moderately controlled diabetes. Diabetes ultimately just gets worse over time, and these operations improve or put diabetes in remission, leading to basically a certain time in your life, maybe 20 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 30 years, where you don't have diabetes. So it definitely puts people in remission in that they don't necessarily get a cure of their diabetes, but it puts you back in time. So you have 30 years of remission from diabetes is a horrible disease that affects all organ systems and leads to early death.
If someone were to come to you, let's talk a little bit about the process of determining whether or not someone is a candidate, and how young do we see patients now that are opting for these types of surgeries?
Well, we see patients at all age groups, but we only operate on 18 and older. There are groups in Cincinnati that operate on folks younger than that. They have different programs that require adolescent care facilities, and we don't currently have that set up, although it is a goal of ours. We are interested in the childhood obesity problem here and are working toward making that a reality with regard to our program at some point. We see, so we operate on 18-year-olds, and we will see patients as we don't have an upper age limit. We have an physiologic upper age limit in that we don't want to operate on somebody who's too sick and too elderly to do.
They've each talked about this 6-month period before. What is that 6-month period for?
The 6-month period is, there are some pluses and minuses to 6 months. Nobody wants to wait when they're ready for surgery. These folks come in and they want surgery today because they finally made the choice, they've made that step, and they've decided that this is what they want. But in order to get somebody prepared for surgery, they need to be mentally in a state where they're ready. They need to be physiologically and medically fit for surgery, and they need to have a lot of diet education. And this is what that 6 months is for. It's to prepare somebody in a mental health way, in a medical way, and to educate them thoroughly before surgery.
The one thing we want to reiterate today so much is the fact that this is not a quick fix.
It is not. And we reiterate that time and again. We consider any one of these operations as one of 4 separate pieces of the puzzle here for success. The first piece is dietary change and eating whole, healthy foods. So stuff you dig up out of the ground and meat. We want people to stay away from processed foods, which is most of what we eat these days. We know it's bad for the population in general. It's very bad for children, and it's bad for our patients. We know that activity and exercise is absolutely essential for success after surgery. We ask folks to exercise regularly so that they are sweating and out of breath. Exercise is not activity. Activity is activity, and that means walking around, doing your house chores and things like that. Exercise is different. The third thing is follow-up. It's essential that people follow up. If they don't follow up, they can run into problems, and these operations are like buying a fancy car. You have to go in and get your oil changed regularly. You have to check for problems. You have to get updates, all of those things. It's the reality of these procedures. And the fourth thing is the operation. Any one of those, 4-legged stool, you lose one of them, you're not going to do well ultimately.
We have our guests today who have shared their wonderful stories. And I know, like I said earlier, you're so proud of their accomplishments, and they have no regrets. Their only regret is
Not doing it sooner.
not doing it sooner. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people with our audience today who have been thinking about one of the procedures, who have just not picked up the phone and made that call just to ask the questions, would I be a candidate? And all they have to do is call your office to schedule a time to see if they are a candidate.
They can, and We have actually made things a lot easier in terms of educating yourself initially with this by watching a video online. We have a seminar that you can watch online, and then you can make an appointment and come in. We also meet once a month and have a seminar in the clinic building on the 10th floor, a Tuesday a month, so that folks can ask questions of me. I mean, a lot of people have questions as to whether or not they are candidates, or whether or not they've had a certain operation that would eliminate their ability to have surgery. And we recommend highly that they come in, even if they've watched the video. It's very helpful because they get us right in front of them, both the dietitian and myself, to answer any kind of questions they have.
Dr. Jamie Johnson, thank you so much
You're
for
most welcome.
what you do and changing lives. And that's exactly what you do. You give people their life back. So we certainly appreciate you being part of Pikeville Medical Center. And I know these three individuals here cannot thank you enough, and certainly you are indebted to her. But I just want to congratulate each of you on getting your lives back, reclaiming your lives, extending your life for your families and those that love you so much. You have a big, bright future ahead of you. And if you're with us today and you have questions about weight loss surgery at Pikeville Medical Center, it's very easy to call and get those questions answered. All you have to do is dial 218-6358, and we will certainly answer any questions you may have. And of course, ask when the services are, that they can come to one of your seminars, Dr. Johnson, and ask those very important questions. Everyone, thanks so much. It's been a wonderful time spent today, and I appreciate you being with us on Health Talk. This has been Health Talk, a service of Pikeville Medical Center, proud member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network. For today, I'm your host, Jill Fraley Dotson. Thank you for watching.